How's it going, guys? My name is Jake, and welcome back to Gax Reviews. So, welcome back to Super Saturdays. We got a brand new video for you guys, and I thought, let's switch it up a little bit. I love the MCU as much as a lot of you guys do, and I haven't gotten a chance to talk about that yet. So, I kind of want to give my opinions on every single movie that has come out in the MCU. I was thinking of a way to do that. I was thinking of a ranking, and I thought, ranking's going to be kind of long. I want to condense this a little bit. I'm going to do a tier list. I haven't done these before. So basically, if you don't know what a tier list is, it ranks the movies. And as you can see on the screen right now, we got a tier from GOAT to the best, great, good, meh, and not good. So I'm going to take every single movie in the MCU from phase 1 to 3, and I'm going to rank them. And we're going in sequential order. So before we get started, I want you guys in the comment section below, what's your favorite MCU movie? Smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't. And let's get started with this. So first up, we got the OG of the MCU, Iron Man. So this is the movie that started it all, and I still have fond memories of me. I think I was, 2008. I was young. I was a very young Jake, and I still remember going to the theaters with my dad, and us just being blown away. And Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, and for such a controversial casting at the time with a guy who didn't really have his career under, and he just was able to turn his career around as well. This movie still holds up really well. I think that this is the best origin story that we have in the MCU, and for me, Iron Man, since it holds such a special place in my heart, deserves nothing better than GOAT. So we're gonna throw that one on the GOAT tier. Bang. And I will redo these in order, try to get my official ranking towards the end, but we're just going to go through all these right now. Next up we got is the Incredible Hulk, and this is the black sheep of the MCU. Obviously, Edward Norton played Bruce Banner in this movie, and it's produced by Universal Pictures, and a lot has changed since that. We haven't had a standalone Hulk film since then, but Bruce Banner has been replaced by Mark Ruffalo, and to me that was for the best. I like Edward Norton as an actor, but he really didn't fit in well to me, and this movie just feels so tonally different and just so off compared to the rest of the MCU, and it's just a clear outlier. And when you look at all of that, the factors, the CGI to me holds up pretty well. I haven't seen it in a while, but from what I remember, it still looks good. But just this isn't a story that has me wanting to go back to it, especially knowing now what I know with the MCU and how inconsequential it is at the time with most of the characters, and really the only character that comes back is Thaddeus Ross. So to me, I can't put Hulk anywhere higher than meh. It's almost pushing that good tier, but there's just that inconsequential act to it. It just doesn't get there to me. Next up, Iron Man 2, and I feel like this is going to be the controversial one for the video. I don't like Iron Man 2. I'm sorry. I've tried so hard to go back and keep rewatching this movie and try to find something I like about it, but I just can't. It's so messy, and it just feels like they didn't know what they wanted to do with this one. And this is a lot of my problems with the Iron Man trilogy in general, is they all feel so vastly different from the other. And while it ties to take a step up, I just feel like it takes a step down from its predecessor. And I really did not enjoy any direction they went with this. I'm trying to struggle to think. I know the movie in my head, but I really can't think of anything to say about it because I just kind of pushed it mostly out of my head. I really don't like this movie. This is going in the not good tier for me. I can't even speak about why I don't like this movie so much, but it's one of my least favorite in the MCU. And there's only a couple that's going to reach that not good tier for me, and this is one of them. But next up, another one. Phase 1 just feels so different nowadays, and it's really hard to rank these because they're such a first stepping stone. And nothing is better than saying that than Thor. Thor, if you look at Thor now, he is so vastly different from the Thor that was presented by Kenneth Branagh in this movie. And it's good. I like Thor. I think that I really liked some of the mythical aspects they lent to it. Those Dutch angles, though, I did not a fan of those. It gives me kind of like tilting my head every single time I try to watch it. But it's a good movie. It's fairly tame. Like, there's really nothing really to complain about. It's just kind of forgettable at the end of the day. But I think there's enough good to pass in that. And Chris Hemsworth, bringing an actor that really not a lot of people knew and put into this role, he really shined as Thor. Even though this isn't his best stage of Thor, I still think he was really good. And of course, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Who can forget that guy? Introducing him, and one of my favorite villains / anti-heroes in the MCU. So I think there's enough good here that we can throw Thor onto the good list. Throw that one there. Next up, we got Captain America: First Avenger, and Another one that not a lot of people seem to love, but I never understood why not a lot of people loved it. Maybe because Cap is one of my favorite heroes in the MCU, but I just feel like the whole origin story for Steve Rogers was so fascinating to look at, and I enjoyed Red Skull. I loved the way that they captured the story between Peggy and Cap, and I just loved seeing Cap grow from a skinny kid in New York to the superhero that we know and love and the leader. And it feels so different also from other MCU movies because it's in a different era, and I think that they capture that era so well. It's not as good as the rest of his Captain America sequels, and we're going to get to those in a little bit, but I think there's enough to warrant Captain America to be put on the great tier, to be honest. Really, I think this is kind of an underrated film in the MCU to me. It's I think if you haven't seen it in a while, I think you should go back and look at it. It's probably one of the most underrated films in the MCU. But next up, we come to the OG Avengers. Oh my goodness! What can you say about this movie aside from just throwing this one straight up into GOAT immediately? Yeah, the Avengers should not have worked. This whole thing just should not have worked. I could sit here and talk about for days just how crazy this entire thing is, how this actually worked the way it did, because we've never seen anything like this before. Like sequential movies all crossing paths and lead up to this big team up movie. We've never seen that. And for someone who grew up on superheroes and just loved and adored them growing up, to see them finally on the big screen just hashing it out, and that final scene, the battle for New York, oh my goodness. I do think it's kind of a lot more smaller scaled than it is nowadays. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I loved Loki as the villain here. I think there's a couple things that don't really age as well as they used to, but you can't not put this on GOAT. Like, it's the reason the MCU is the way it is today. If the Avengers failed, if it was a box office fail, I have no idea if the MCU would have even continued after this, but I'm thankful that it does because we're getting into some better movies. But not right now. Iron Man 3 is another controversial one, but I'm throwing this one in the meh tier. I don't hate Iron Man 3 as a lot of other people do. It is tonally the most different from any other Iron Man movie because Shane Black came in here and tried to do what Shane Black does, which is kind of switch up the formula a little bit, and I don't know if that necessarily worked in a superhero movie. That Mandarin twist, I know that makes everyone mad. Yeah, I don't love it. It's kind of stupid, but I did enjoy some aspects. I enjoyed them talking about Tony's PTSD from the Avengers, and obviously that's an underlying tone that continued all the way till Endgame. But the start of it, and I thought that was really cool, as well as the chemistry with the kid. He was really good with it, but ultimately it just felt so weird to me, and the whole ending, I'm not a fan of that ending at all. And this is probably my most least watched film in the MCU. I have no desire to go back and watch this, but there's still enough good to push it out of that not good tier list. But it's still a meh for me. But something that's not going in the meh tier list, and that's going in the straight not good, is Thor: The Dark World. Holy God, what did they do to this movie? I cannot stand this movie. I'm going to spoil this out of the way. This is my least favorite movie in the MCU. It's so dull. It's so dry. It's so boring. Like, even the first Thor, there is a lot of enjoyable in that to at least get some entertainment out of. This is just nothing. It's so drab, and the comedic relief with Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård, it just didn't work, and I didn't care at all about the villains. And when they talk about the MCU having a villain problem, this is the definition of a villain problem. I don't even remember his name. What is his name? I know his face. He was like a white dwarf. Oh my God. I know this is a very important film, also setting up a lot of the stuff that has to do with the Infinity Stones, but oh my God, I can't go back and watch this film. It's so boring, and I'm so glad that they took that leap out of that. Next up, we got Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's going in the GOAT tier for me. The Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies in the MCU. If First Avenger did a good job at setting up Cap, this blew his character out of proportion in such a bold way. The idea to make a spy thriller in the MCU out of Captain America, who's kind of a joke hero, not at this point, but in the past, it just worked so well. And the Russos coming in and making such a tense and twist with Hydra, and really just such a memorable film that I think is easily one of the most rewatchable films in the MCU because it feels so different. And I love that spy feel, and I wish they went back to it. And I hope at some point with the Falcon and Bucky that they do go back to that, because the introduction of Falcon we had in this one also, and the exploration between Bucky and Cap, and it's just chef's kiss to that one. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, to be honest. It's up there. I love that movie. Next up, we got Guardians of the Galaxy, and again, another movie that should not have worked on any level. I'm just gonna get this out of the way, and I'm gonna throw Guardians of the Galaxy. It's lagging a little bit. I'm gonna throw Guardians of the Galaxy on the best tier. This is without a doubt one of the funniest movies in the MCU, and like I mentioned, something that just should not have worked. I think a lot of that comes down to James Gunn's ability as a director and as a writer, and able to make these crazy heroes so lovable. And Chris Pratt is great in it, Dave Bautista, Zoe Saldana, just Bradley Cooper playing a raccoon. Like, you just look at this, there's a talking tree. None of this should have worked, but for the heart to come out of this, and for the chemistry between all these characters, and that writing, the sharp writing, the funny writing, the creative writing, created one of the best movie experiences I've had. And since then, I haven't doubted the MCU with anything, because if they can make a talking tree work and be a phenomenal character, I am Groot, I'm gonna buy everything that they do here. So Guardians of the Galaxy on the best tier. And next up, we got Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is a movie that I kind of struggled to try to figure out where I want to put this, because I'm going to be honest, I've only seen this movie once. And I think it's a lack of desire for me to go back and see it, because it was so ambitious at what it was trying to do. And the hype was so insurmountable coming off the original Avengers and James Spader playing Ultron. And I'm gonna put Age of Ultron in the good tier, and I think that the reason for that is just because I think there's still like some really good pieces in here, and they introduced a lot of good characters. I think Joss Whedon had such an insurmountable job trying to live past that hype of the original Avengers that they kind of just crammed way too much in here, and it ended up kind of falling on its face a couple times. There's a couple storylines in here that I really don't vibe with and I really don't enjoy. But I still think that the introduction of Vision and Ultron in general was just such a really cool character, and I think they kind of flaunted him a little bit. But I think the action's still really good. It's kind of familiar in the third act, but I can't hate this movie for what it was trying to do, and I think there's still a lot of good in here. I just think that this was just such a hard task to try to do that Joss Whedon didn't fully capture it the way it could have been. Still, I probably should go back and recheck it. It could end up on the great list for a second watch, or it could go lower. I don't really know. But next up, we got another movie which not a lot of people love, surprisingly, and that's Ant-Man. And this is Paul Rudd's introduction into the MCU. And I'm going to go ahead and put Ant-Man on the good tier. Again, nothing crazy with Ant-Man. I think it's a really fun, solid time. It's very similar to Iron Man's origin story, and I understand the comparisons, and I get it. I just think Paul Rudd is so charismatic in this role. However, this is not his best showing. And we're going to get to that right now, because Ant-Man, yeah, it's good. I really don't have a lot to say about that. But a movie that I do have a lot to say about, Civil War, that just goes straight into the GOAT tier. Oh my God. So you can see Spider-Man in behind me. You can see that I'm wearing a Captain America shirt. This is the MCU movies. Like, this is the Avengers movie I wanted. This is everything I've ever dreamed of as a kid watching this movies. Like, the team ups, the airport sequences, having Spider-Man finally in the MCU. Oh my God, the show off between Tony and Cap, and just the underlines of Sokovia, all of that in here is so beautifully captured. And if you're not an MCU fan, I understand why you wouldn't like this movie on its own, but this is just sets up so much for the eventual conclusions of Phase 3 that it's hard to even put into words why this movie is so phenomenal. I think this is my most rewatched film in the MCU, because that euphoria and that joy I get every single time I watch that airport sequence. Oh my Lord. And Black Panther, this is the best we've seen Black Panther. and his introduction, his story was great as well. Paul Rudd was really good, and I think he's really good in those short spurts as well. He is good for a lead, but I think he's better than that. And Tom Holland's introduction to Spider-Man, to me, I've talked about this a lot, not even on this channel, but to a lot of my friends. I think that if you look at all the Spider-Mans, you got Tobey Maguire, who's the most the memorable because you grew up watching Tobey Maguire, and he's the best Peter Parker, but I don't think he's the best Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was in some really terrible movies, and he was a really good Spider-Man, but not a good Peter Parker. I think Tom Holland is the best of both worlds. I think he's easily the best Peter Parker we've seen. I think he's easily the best Spider-Man we see because he's so believable and you understand his situations. And even in his first movie, with so much hype around him coming back up and you just thinking he's going to fail. Nope. And he does a phenomenal job in this movie and leading to one of my favorite characters in the MCU. And that's inevitable because Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man. But just such a great movie. Such a great movie. If you somehow haven't seen Civil War, go check it out. Next up, we got Doctor Strange. Another movie that not great, but I'm gonna put this one also on the good tier. I think that the cinematography and the CGI in this movie really stand out to me. Like very mind bending, very Inception like. Benedict Cumberbatch is really good. I just think that there's a lot of here again inconsequential. Mads Mikkelsen. I don't remember how his character ends in that movie. I think he's not dead. Is he dead? I don't remember. I like to see him back again. I like Mads Mikkelsen. I think he is a really strong villain, even if, albeit, he wasn't greatly used, and that's a lot of the things in the good tier you're going to notice is a lot of the villains are forgettable, and that's ultimately where this falls between great and good, because the villains have a huge part, and if they're just going to be a one-off that really don't stick with you, that's somewhere that's going to put that for me. So because of that reason, I think Mads Mikkelsen and Doctor Strange in general, it's a good introduction to this character, but again, not the best use of this character that we've seen. So that goes on the good tier for me. Next up, we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And again, coming off the first movie, there is so much just to build off of. And James Gunn, I think, to me, did a good job with it, but it's hard to capture that feeling of that first movie, man. Like, I think the storyline between Ego and Peter was really interesting, and I think that they were going a really nice direction and a kind of a darker direction at times. But a lot of the jokes kind of, I don't want to say hindered because they were funny, but I think they kind of took away from what they were building between Peter and his father. And I think Kurt Russell did a really good job as Ego, but there's something about Guardians 2 that just feels a little off to me. And I'll still watch it from time to time just to enjoy the chemistry between everyone. But it just feels really small. And I'm not against that, but it's just... I wish I loved it a bit more than I did. But for now, it's going to stay on the good tier. It might shift up a little bit. I'm not too sure. I just... The Yondu send-off was really good, and that might put me over to put it on great. I'm floundering about that one. I'll get back to that one in a little bit. But next up I got is Spider-Man Homecoming. And my goodness, guys, Spider-Man Homecoming. If that's not a great way to get into the MCU, I don't know what is. I loved this movie when I first saw it, and I think that was part of just the excitement of seeing Spider-Man in the MCU. And since then, I've kind of gone a bit lower on the film. I don't think that this is a bad film in any way. It's still a great film. I think that it does a really good job at not overusing Iron Man, because that was their draw into the film, is Iron Man's here just in case it fails for some reason, which it didn't. It was a huge box office success, and they didn't overshadow Peter, which was what I really liked, and I love seeing that high school element. And the characters are really good. Zendaya, not the best in this movie, but she gets better. And just in general, I think this is a really fun coming of age film, and it's interesting because we haven't seen really any of this, and it's a nice fresh take to the MCU, which I think it's a nice palate cleanser for a lot of these films. Michael Keaton's character is really good. He's not done yet. He's gonna keep coming back. I'm excited for the future of some of these characters. But next up, oh my God, Thor Ragnarok. I still stand by that you are absolutely crazy if you don't find this movie funny. I know someone who has given this movie 2 chances, watched it 10 minutes in, and thought it was not funny and turned it off. And I get mad every single time I hear that because, holy Lord, Taika Waititi, man, what he is able to do with this movie. Oh, Thor was one of my least favorite characters in the MCU, and he's one of my favorites now. like, just take that through, that this refresh and this reboot of this character, and Taika was able to make these characters so likable and so funny, and it took that Guardians route. And not a lot of movies should do that, but I think it worked perfectly for Thor because Chris Hemsworth has that goofy side to him, and Tom Hiddleston has that goofy side to him, and Mark Ruffalo's got the goofy side to him, and all three of them together created such a perfect melody that is funny, it's heartfelt, it's dark at times, and it's encompasses everything that I love about this the MCU. And I think Thor Ragnarok it's peering off that GOAT tier. I think I need a couple more rewatches to get it up there, but for me, Thor Ragnarok, nothing passes the humor in this movie. It is the funniest movie to me. Guardians is one of them. This is top tier. I love this movie. There's so much quotable lines in it. I want to go rewatch it right now. Next up, this may be my controversial pick for the day. Black Panther. Now, I have a really tough time ranking Black Panther because I'm so up and down with it. The first time I saw Black Panther, I loved the hell out of the movie. And then I saw it again that weekend, and I didn't love it as much. And Ryan Coogler is a really good director. And if you haven't seen Fruitvale Station, or if you haven't seen Creed, I that's what made me capable of knowing how much of a good director he was. And he did a really good job at bringing its own culture to the films, and this is very much its own celebration, and it's a step for the MCU in representation, which is really good. But that third act, I think the third act puts it down for me just a little bit. The CGI is so bad. And I hate saying that. I can't watch that third act anymore because of how bad the CGI is. And the fact that there's MCU movies that hold up better than that one, something felt rushed. I love Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. I think Chadwick Boseman's really good in this role. I think he was better in Civil War, but he was still really good. And it's not a bad movie. It is not a bad movie. I can't put it on the meh tier. I'm going to have to put it on the good tier for now. I really wish I loved this movie a lot more than I did. And something about it is just holding me back from putting it on that great tier. And it's the fact that the more I've watched it, and I've seen it about 5 times now, I've liked it a little less every time, is sad to me, because this is a movie that I really loved the first time. But a movie that I don't think anytime soon is going to be going down my list is Infinity War. Might as well just put that on the GOAT now. You guys already knew it was going there. What's to say about Infinity War that hasn't been said already? This is one of the biggest, most ambitious films that the MCU has done until Endgame. That ending, nothing will top that experience of someone who didn't know what was going to happen, who knows not a lot about the Infinity Gauntlet storylines in the comics. I didn't see this ending coming, and it's crazy that a Hollywood movie is able to do that and leave you on such a cliffhanger, even though you know they're going to come back and you know they're not dead. All of that, just that feeling of everyone just silenced, and that eerie silence that just lingered after that. Just nothing tops that feeling. And I think that it's a really strong movie in itself. This is Thanos' story. It's not really an Avengers story because Thanos comes out on top, and just the fact that they put the heroes in such a terrible position made for just the build of the hype towards Endgame so much better. And I'm never going to forget that experience. That's a one-of-a-time theater experience for me. And if you haven't seen Infinity War in theaters, I'm sorry. Because that feeling was phenomenal. And I don't know if we'll ever feel that feeling again. Next up, we got the film that came out after Infinity War a couple months later, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that this is probably the movie that I have the least amount to say. I'm just going to put on the meh tier for now. It's good. It's fine. It's not good, but it's perfectly watchable. It's a fun little palate cleanser in between the movies. Not much really to say about it. It's kind of just its own little small heist film, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong about it. I just don't really care about it as much. I really like that they put Evangeline Lilly more into the forefront. She's a great character. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Oh boy. I really didn't think this was going to be as controversial as I thought it was. Captain Marvel. Oh boy, I'm putting Captain Marvel in the mat here. I I think this is the most disappointed I've been in an MCU movie coming out, aside from Iron Man 2. Brie Larson. I'm not going to be one of those people that shits on Brie Larson because I think she's a phenomenal actress, and I've seen her in Room, and I've seen what she's been able to do. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. She's a great actress. I just think the writing did her no favors here, and she came off so wooden because it just felt like a Nick Fury movie at times, and it just felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do with this character. And I know that there's a better film out there somewhere, but this isn't it. It's bland. It's uninspired. It takes no risks. It just kind of just coasts. And I like the Skrull twist. I think the Skrull twist was really nice, and I think that it adds a lot into the future of the MCU. But I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that are hating because, oh my god, it's a female-led movie. But no, I love Brie Larson. I just think there's so much better that they could have done with this movie, and ultimately, the film before Endgame, it's hard to hit that hype trying to lead up to it, especially when you're going to introduce her for Endgame. It didn't do a lot to me. So it really can't go anywhere higher than meh for me. Oh my goodness. We've come, finally, to the final two movies. Avengers Endgame. Yeah. You guys know where this is going. This is going on GOAT. My goodness, guys. Avengers Endgame is... If Infinity War is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, this is a once-in-a-century... This is a once-in-a-millennium experience. Nothing will ever top the theater experience that happened at Endgame. The crowd was so wild. Just the twists and turns. Thanos dying within the first 10 minutes, and then the flash forward, going back in time, going through all the old thing. And I get it. I get what this film is. It's fan service at its finest. But when you're following all of these movies and these characters and you have such an emotional connection, and when you're growing up watching these characters, to come to a 21 film ending of its magnitude that it did. And again, the Russo brothers did it again. Just that ending had me in tears because I love these characters so much. And Iron Man had a fitting ending. Captain America had a fitting ending. And it's everything that it should have been. And I understand why some people don't love it. To me, there's no better ending than this movie could have been. Is it long? Yeah, it's 3 hours. It doesn't feel like 3 hours to me. It just feels like a roller coaster. And that's something you don't get a lot in movies. So I'm very thankful for Endgame. I saw it twice in 24 hours, which is crazy thinking about it. But that feeling when Cap picks up Mjolnir and the crowd went crazy. Ah, man. I miss movie theaters. Finally, we're coming up on Spider-Man Far From Home. Where's Black Widow? All right, we haven't seen it yet. Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm going to put Spider-Man Far From Home on the great tier. I think that a lot of people hate on Spider-Man Far From Home because they think it's kind of also inconsequential. I trust me, I've seen so many people say that. Why? What are you talking about? This has the best cliffhanger since Infinity War. That oh my god, I want the next Marvel movies, and the fact that we have to wait even more now is killing me because oh my god, that ending. And Jake Gyllenhaal is so good in this movie, and yeah, he's not the same Mysterio that everyone wanted in the comics to be, and I get it's kind of similar to the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, but it's not because it's Jake Gyllenhaal. And it's just they did a good approach to it, and I think that's a really interesting approach. And I don't think he's dead. I think he'll be back, and especially when I was talking about earlier with Michael Keaton. Why is his name escaping me? Michael Keaton's character, they're going to build up a Sinister Six, and I can't wait for that, especially with Peter's identity being leaked, and he'd been framed for Mysterio's death. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's my tier list. Let's work our way back up from here, and let's try to get an order here. So I think I'm going to keep Thor: The Dark World at the last because I hate that movie. Iron Man 2 is probably the next one up. After that, for the meh, I'm going to say I'm going to put Ant-Man and the Wasp up at the top here. It's just lagging. Come on. There you go. I'm going to put Ant-Man and the Wasp over here, followed by Hulk, and then Iron Man 3 and Captain Marvel. And then the good list, this one's going to be a little bit of shift in here. I'm going to put Thor at the end, followed shortly by Ant-Man. Afterwards, I'm going to put Doctor Strange, and then Black Panther, No, I'm gonna put Avengers: Age of Ultron, then Black Panther, then Guardians Volume 2. I'm not gonna put on the great list. I think good, especially on the cusp of great, is where that one should be. Great, I'm gonna put First Avenger at the end there. I'm gonna flip Far From Home and Homecoming, even though they're so close, so close. I think they're interchangeable on any other day. I think that looks good there. Followed up by Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok. And the best tier, I'm gonna put Iron Man at number 5. I'm gonna put Avengers at number 4. What? My God, I'm gonna put Iron Man at number 6. I'm gonna put Avengers at number 5. Oh my God. I'm gonna put Civil War at number 4. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm gonna put Endgame at number 3. No. I know I said Captain America, but it's still just one of my favorite movies of all time. So is Avengers: Infinity War. This looks great to me. This is my list. That's my 21 films, and that's a good list for me. This is a long video. Oh my God, I didn't think it was gonna be this long. So if you guys made it all this way, I want you guys again in the comment section below. Put Apple. Put a code word Apple. I'm kind of losing my mind right now. I'm glad that it's a good tier list for me. If you guys, I want you guys in the comment section below also with that. Tell me your favorite movie again. And I'll wrap it up there. Leave a like if you haven't already subscribed. Thank you guys for watching Super Saturdays. I'll see you guys next week for another video. As well, a couple other things. Got a Curse review in the works coming out right now. But that about wraps up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.